Here we are once again on the Total Mind Fitness Wellbeing Workout. It is within your reach. We're using the Trauma to Triumph system, and it's not in the heavens, it's not in the sky, it's not over the seas, it's in your hands, it's within your reach. All you need to do is to go out and grab it and put it into action. This is the Total Mind Fitness Wellbeing Workout. Please say hello with your name in the comments. We're here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. UK time. Oh my goodness, this is the first day of the 11th week of official lockdown in the UK. And there's a few of us out there, including me, that have been in isolation, quarantine, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, an extra 1 or 2 weeks. So basically we're all approaching 3 months in captivity. And if you listened to my the virtual conference live talks last night, you would have seen Glenn Cohen, who's an expert in captivity, in prison of war training. And he spoke about what it's like to live in captivity and the kind of things that we should be doing. When, even though we're not prisoners of war, but we're still living under that kind of captivity type of lifestyle where we are, our freedoms are restricted. We're basically having to stay in our houses, not go out much, unless, of course, according to the regulations, you can go to work, etc., etc. But there are many, many, many millions of people that are stuck in their houses and are maybe allowed to go out once a day for exercise, but you know, not everybody goes out once a day for exercise, so we're kind of stuck in. In any case, there is a certain amount of anxiety when going outside and going to the shops. We have to queue up, wear masks, gloves, sanitizer, the whole thing. Not an easy lifestyle these days, and in fact, we are we're going into what's, commonly being named the new norm, whatever that means. And hey, Denise Journal is in the house. Wonderful. Wow, wonderful. Great to have you here. Yeah, it's a different type of world we're living in, at least at the moment. Never mind if there's going to be any second waves and so on and so forth. What are we doing here? Well, we're trying to learn, first of all, how to live under these circumstances. That's what it's all about. It's about adapting and not maladapting. Maladapting is when you do things that are maybe not the most effective and useful for your life. They might have short-term benefits, of course, but in the long term, that might be not the behavior that you want in your best interests. Adaptive behavior is behavior that you adapt to the current situations, but this behavior will assist you to have a higher quality life, will be useful for you, will be advantageous, will help you deal and cope with what's going on. So the Total Mind Fitness workout was all about how to deal with this distress in the present moment, what's going on, and how to build our inner skills, how to reach those inner resources that we all have in order to adapt them in a healthy, useful way for being in a kind of lockdown situation, but also moving forward to help us go forward and move on to what life will be like after lockdown. And if you're coming and watching this from anywhere else in the world where you might be a little bit ahead or a little bit behind what's going on here in the United Kingdom, then this too is very useful for you, because even if you're already out into freedom and not in lockdown anymore, this is not just about lockdown. This is about life. This is about dealing with life's distresses. And not me nor anybody else on this planet. And if anybody else on this planet says they can, then I would be very wary of them. Not me, not anyone on this planet can take away your pain. Okay? Can take away the circumstances, can change the weather. One beautiful, where I am, beautiful, gorgeous, sunny weather. Okay, sometimes it's beautiful, gorgeous, rainy weather. Sometimes it's beautiful, gorgeous, windy weather. Today it's beautiful, gorgeous, sunny weather. But if I went out in the beautiful, gorgeous, sunny weather and wanted it to be raining, well, that's okay to want that, but there's nothing I can do to make it rain. It's at the moment sunny. Okay, so I need to adapt to that sunny weather. So if I go out into the sunny weather with, my raincoat on and my gloves and my scarf and, my heavy iron jumper and my big boots, Wellington boots, and thick socks and, the 3-4 layers of clothes, and it's sunny and warm out there, well, there's a good chance that I'm going to feel very uncomfortable. There's a good chance that I'm not going to be able to function in that heat, in that kind of environment, as well as if I went out a little bit lighter dressed, not so many layers, no need for all that warmth when it's already warm outside. Okay, so that's what it's about. The converse is the same. If it was a beautiful but rainy and stormy day, and I went out, with a t-shirt, or as they say in Glasgow, taps off, no shirt on the top, just trousers or shorts or whatever. Go out in my swimwear when it's pouring down and cold and icy, then there's a good chance that it's going to be very uncomfortable. There's a good chance that that's not the best and most useful way of wearing clothes when it's under those conditions. And if I looked up to the heavens and said, look, it's got to be sun now, it's got to be sunny now, positive thinking, do a little bit of self-affirmations, it's going to be sunny, it's going to be sunny. No, it's not sunny, it's rainy and stormy and black clouds. And so my behavior is not suitable for the conditions outside. So that's kind of what we're learning how to do here, is how to adapt our behavior, adapt the way that we live, that will be useful for the conditions that we're living in. And unfortunately, before you learn this stuff, there's a lot of us out there, including me. I used to be like this and still am in certain ways, that my behavior is not always useful under the circumstances. It's not always useful in the situation that I find myself. And I'm talking about not just about putting on clothing or outward behavior. I'm also talking about inward behavior. Okay, so we get full of thoughts, we have emotions, we have bodily sensations. Yesterday, for instance, I had these body sensations that I get in my tummy that really, really horrible. And it kind of affects your whole mood. Anyone have that? You get these kind of, I don't know even how to explain it. Sometimes it's a bit of a pit in your stomach. Sometimes it's like a hole, or it's kind of an agitation, irritability. It's not like a physical thing. It's like an emotional thing. And it really can pull you down. And the emotions sink with it. If anyone has that kind of experience, stick it in a comment. Just say, yes, I've had that experience. I get it on a regular basis. Now, there was one time that I would have said, oh, I'm feeling really down. I'm feeling really depressed now. Or I'm feeling really anxious. That might have prevented me from getting out of bed. It might have prevented me from doing anything, because it was so intense. And I would say to myself, I just can't do anything today. And sometimes that's all right. But if that goes on another day and another day and another day, and we find out that we're really not being functional in life, that is not necessarily the most useful way of responding to what's going on inside, to responding to our new environment, but an inwardly one, responding to the conditions that we're in. So one thing I've learned from my mentors and teachers, and my practice and my experience, and the wisdom that develops out of that, is that we can react and respond in the way that is important for us, in the way that matters for us, and not what is dictated by our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and body sensations, and memories, and urges. Of course, it's not an easy thing, but it is possible with practice, that we don't get pulled all over the place and hijacked by our thoughts, hijacked by our emotions, hijacked by our body sensations. Because when we get hijacked, our thinking executive part of our brain starts to shut down, and we start to, become separated from the world around us. We begin to become inwardly. We start to disconnect with ourselves and with those around us and with the world at large. And the more we disconnect, the more we're feeding this dictator within us, these dictating thoughts, these dictating emotions, these dictating bodily sensations, these dictating urges, these dictating disturbing memories. And now we become slaves to that dictator. We become people in bondage, in slavery. We don't act according to what is in our own best interests, what is useful for us, what is important for us, what matters to us in the way that we want to be human beings, in the way that we want to act as parents, friends, children, brothers, sisters, partners, neighbors, members of communities, members of society, members of the world, part of the human race, whatever level of group that you're talking about. This will get in the way if we're getting hijacked. It will prevent us from living the way that we want to live. And so we need to learn skills. We need to practice those skills in order to break away, in order to disconnect from those dictators, in order to distance ourselves from those dictators. There's no getting rid of them. Let's be honest and clear. There's no getting rid of our emotions or our thoughts or our bodily sensations or anything like that. We can't get rid of it. There's a lot of us who try. We try to get rid of these very, very uncomfortable and hijacking emotions and thoughts and urges and bodily sensations and so on. We try. We might try by distracting ourselves all the time so that we don't feel it or experience it. We might try to get away from it by taking substances or alcohol. And we find that, it works for the time that we're taking it, but the spaces in between, this all comes back. And sometimes it comes back even stronger. So we have to take more and more and more. We might even be trying to distract ourselves from it by going to the fridge and stuffing ourselves with comfort foods. And that works for a short period also. But, when you take the breath between the bites, it all comes back again. And so we have to take more and more and more. And what happens when we live like that? What happens to our thoughts when we live like that? Well, a lot of the time what happens is our own brains start to beat us about the way that we're dealing with it. Oh, all you do is eat all day. All you do is drink all day. All you do is take substances all day. All you do is get angry all day. All you do is, I don't know what. Sleep all day. Disconnect all day. You're not part of this. You're not part of the family. You're not part of the community. You're not part of the world. You just do things on your own. Our own brains I'm talking about, never mind anybody else. Our own brains will start putting on the guilt when we try to distract ourselves from these thoughts. These thoughts come back in a different way. They come back to bite us. And the same with our emotions. We can try to numb out our own emotions. And we do. We it's kind of almost, a default way that we try to run away from them. We try to numb them out. We try to fight them. So it's a fight and flight thing. We're in a war situation with our emotions. Very much these uncomfortable, horrible ones. We go into a war, fight and flight. Either we're trying to run away to distract us or we're trying to numb it out. We're fighting. How long can we go on fighting? What energy are we using? Our life energy we're using to be in that fight on a daily basis, 24/7. Some people are even fighting that at night. It's in the middle of their sleep. They're waking up, fighting, they're taking sleeping pills, trying to get back to sleep again. Do not feel, I don't want to feel, I don't want to think. The unfortunate thing is the cost. Oh my goodness, the cost of fighting and flighting from ourselves and with ourselves. We're not talking about anybody else here. We're only talking about me and myself. How much energy did I use up fighting and flighting from myself? Trying to numb out these thoughts and emotions and body sensations, trying to escape them. And that's very, very exhausting. And the more exhausted we get, the more our immune system starts to weaken. The more exhausted we get, the more our digestive system starts to weaken. The more exhausted we get, the more our bodily repair and reproduction system weakens. So if we get injured or our skin starts to deteriorate, or if we get injured, the repair of that injury is much slower. Or if we get more diseases because our immune system is down, then the repair system is slower to kick in because we're exhausted. And that's especially important during these times when we have a very deadly virus that's just looking for those who are weakened biologically, weakened immune system, weakened digestive system, weakened nervous system, exhausted. And this comes from our mental well-being. If it's exhausted because we are fighting our thoughts and emotions and body sensations by fighting and flighting ourselves, then this uses energy. It uses a lot of energy. And why continue with that? It might work very well at the very beginning, but then it just doesn't do the business. So what can we do about it? Well, we have the Trauma to Triumph system, which gives us a good framework on what we need to do. And what we've been doing over the last week is talking about the transformation of our behavior and habits. Let's examine those behaviors and habits that we have been doing so long, that we've learned through our life experiences, and we put them into practice, and they may have been good at one time in our life, and they may continue to be great, but let's examine them. And let's see if we're putting raincoats on in the sun. Let's see if we're putting swimwear on in the storm. And the only way that we'll be able to do this is by examining our behavior and habits and seeing if they are relevant to the circumstances that I live in today, in the time of life that I'm in. What was good when I was 5, not necessarily is good when I'm 25 or 45 or 65 or 85. And this whole system that we've been doing over the last few weeks has been examining what's under the T, what's under the transform. We went into a whole series of talks on the B, the E, the whole lettering system of behavior. And we discovered what actually behavior is. And we want to have in our lives the suitable behavior, the behavior that will increase the chance of us living a higher quality life. Why not? Why not live a higher quality life if we can? It's a choice at the end of the day, and we want to have that choice in our hand. Because when we are slaves to our emotions and slaves to our thoughts and slaves to our urges and slaves to our memories and slave to our bodily sensations, that means we have no choice. It means these things are going to dictate how we behave. And that can get us into a lot of trouble with ourselves, our own health, our own sense of joy, our own sense of achievement. It can get in the way of our relationships with those close around us, our friends and family and partners. It can get in the way that we function at work, and we function with colleagues, and we function with our outer circles of relationships. It can get us into trouble. Can get us into trouble with the law. It can get us in trouble with other people. It can get us in trouble with the boss. It can get us in trouble with our employees if we are the boss. Our business can start going down. What are the costs of the behaviors if we're slaves? And examining this, we want to ask ourselves, what would we do differently if we behaved in a way that is suitable for the conditions I live in? And we have to ask ourselves, first of all, what is it? In what way do I want to live? I mean, that has to be the first question here. How do I actually want to live my life? Let's put all the obstacles aside. Okay? Let's put all the financial obstacles aside, the health obstacles aside, everything that we can think of that might be an obstacle. And see, how is it that I would like to live my life? And I'm not talking about at this point, oh, I would like to live my life by having 5, holidays a year in the Bahamas, or I'd like to live my life, driving a sports car. I'd like to live my life, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about at this point. I'm asking, how would I like to live? In what way do I want to behave in my life? You can behave in a sports car differently. Same sports car. If that's your thing. You can behave in a sports car by having a sports car going around and giving everybody free lifts. That's one way of behaving in a sports car. Or you can behave in a sports car very arrogantly and, look around for people that you can meet at the traffic lights and rev up your engine and beat them at the traffic lights. Or you can behave in a sports car arrogantly by not paying attention to any of the rules and regulations on the road and swinging your car in and out of other cars, speeding, breaking the law, driving dangerously. So it's not about the sports car. It's about how you want to behave with the sports car. So I'm asking, let's ask ourselves, how is it that we want to behave? What matters to it? What way do we want to behave that's important to us? Do we want to be kind? Do we want to be compassionate? But there's other things. Do we want to be adventurous in our life? Do we want to be curious and find out new things in our life? There's lots. Do we want to be artistic? Many years ago, I don't paint, I don't draw, I don't do anything. But there's a certain artistic streak that goes through me. And one day I woke up and I said, I want to paint. Now, I don't know how to paint. I've never painted, but I want to paint. So I went out and I buy myself a canvas and I buy myself some paints and I buy myself a couple of paint brushes. And I look on the internet and I find some YouTube video that's going to kind of give me an idea what I'm supposed to do. And I watched this video a couple of times. I get my canvas. Now, believe me, the hardest thing of doing the painting, the hardest thing, it took me ages. It took me, I don't know how long, a long time, maybe an hour, to put the first bit of paint on the blank canvas. That was the hardest thing. Beautiful white canvas. Now, I bought one of those big canvases. I don't know the sizes, but it's a big one. And I've got the paint and I've got the brush. And I've got no idea what I want to paint. No idea. I don't have a clue. So I thought, okay, the only thing that I can think of is what I see. The view that I see at that particular moment out my window. And I looked at the view and I looked at the canvas and I've got my brush and I've got my paint and I could not put the paint on the canvas. Now, nobody's looking at me. Nobody needs to even see this. I can make all the mistakes and make a rubbish thing and then just burn the whole thing. But yet it was hard for me to put the paint on the canvas, to make that first move. Because that change in the canvas is something that our brains have a defense system. They don't like change, even if it's me changing that canvas. Anyway, eventually I put the paint on the canvas. What a relief, really. And then I started to play around with it. Now, I'm not saying this was the best painting in the world. In fact, it had lots and lots of mistakes. It had mistakes in perspective. It had mistakes in colors. It had mistakes in ratios and sizes. It had some sort of resemblance to what was out the window, but it certainly wasn't one-to-one in any way whatsoever. But it was my painting. And to me, it was beautiful. And I used it to express that need for creativity, that difference in my life, that behaving according to what was important to me. And it was important to me to express that creativity and that curiosity and that sense of adventure. And all these things without moving from my window. Today, I do that with my tomato seeds. I'm not moving very far from my own home. In fact, on my windowsill, inside my home, I planted my tomato seeds. And the sense of curiosity and the sense of adventure and the sense of that compassion and looking after something that you don't know what's going to happen and caring for it and nurturing a little tiny seed. It's not about the sports car. It's not about the seed. It's not about the painting. It's about how do I want to behave in relation to the sports car, in relation to the painting, in relation to the tomato seeds. And when we relate to our circumstances according to what's important to us, according to the values that we've created for ourselves, that increases the chance of living a higher quality life. So I ask you, what would you do differently if all things were equal and nobody was watching and you can just do it? How would you treat yourself differently? How would you behave towards others differently? How would you behave towards the world differently? What would you stop doing that you're doing now that's not really in your best interests? What would you start doing now that you really know deep down that will be in your best interest? What events would you go to? What activities what challenges would you give yourself? These are the questions that help raise the quality of our life. And if you go back into the series of transforming your behavior and habits that we finished yesterday, then you can at least learn the beginnings of those skills. And we'll be talking about this again tomorrow. And next week, we're going to be going into the other parts of the T.R.I.U.M.P.H system. So we're talking about the R, which will be resilience building. We're going into that and understanding what is the resilience, what is this building we can do, what are these resources that we can use from within to build our resilience. And then we're going to be going into the I, which is the interpersonal relationships enhancement. What can we do to enhance our interpersonal relationships? Now, I'm not just talking about intimate relationships. That's the ultimate relationships between human beings, but there's also relationships with our children, relationships with our friends and the rest of our family, relationships with colleagues, relationships with people in the world. And then we're going to be upskilling the U in T.R.I.U.M.P.H on plan the work, work the plan our lives, live our plan. Keeping it flexible. It's not about hard plan. It's about keeping our lives flexible. And then the M in Triumph is about mindful moments. How many mindful moments can you find in a day? Can you find 100? Can you identify 100 mindful moments in a day where you can have gratitude? Opening our eyes in the morning, getting dressed, having gratitude for having clothes, jumping in the shower, having gratitude for having running water, brushing your teeth, having gratitude for having the ability and the instruments to keep our hygiene and our teeth clean. There's having a mindful moment of gratitude when we have our breakfast or a cup of coffee, or that we have the food we have, the place that we're living in. I mean, can we find 100 mindful moments of gratitude a day? That's what we'll be going into too. And then the P in Triumph is about peer-to-peer support. It's about how people can help other people, how we can help others and others can help us. And the H is harnessing our thoughts and feelings. It's about the ability to take our thoughts and feelings and harness them for our best interest, for our most useful life, for building our life to the best that we can, and best meaning higher quality, not best as in competition with others. So that is what the T.R.I.U.M.P system is all about, and it is within your reach. Thank you for joining me. See you tomorrow.